Alrighty, let's talk about the Australian Grand Prix 2020. I almost said 2023. That was a crazy race. A lot of red flags going on there. Very bad race, actually, for Ferrari and Alpine, actually, if you put them together. Here were my thoughts just before I watched the race. And after this, I'll give you my immediate reaction to that race result. Righty, the race is about to kick off, and I completely expect that Max Verstappen is going to win this race easily. But behind him, that's where the battle is going to happen. And it's really interesting, the mix we have now between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. But Ferrari have to do something here. They're too far back as well. They need to come into the mix. Other than that, now, look, Gasly versus Ocon. For me, that's a big one. I really want to see how that plays out. That's going to be a battle that goes on all season. And of course, we have the Haas cars as well. Hülkenberg qualifying quite well as well. He's been doing a great job since he's come in for Haas. Now, they're just getting ready to do the formation lap here with the one that I'm watching at the moment. Watching it late. I have avoided the internet for as long as possible. Really looking forward to this. Such a shame that Perez is starting from the back. So they've confirmed now that Perez and Valtteri Bottas will be starting from the pit lane. Perez needs to try and make his way through the field. Verstappen has shown us that he can do it. Australia has a different circuit, though. It's not quite as easy to overtake, but there are overtaking opportunities. So Perez can show us the real power of the car. Looks like he's starting on the hard tyre as well. So show us the power of the Red Bull. Perez, make your way through the field. I would still predict that he should be well able to get into the top 10. Can he make it into the top 5? It'll be a big challenge, but if this Red Bull is as good as they're saying, then he should be able to do that. Safety cars could play a very big part of this as well, and they're saying this is a one-stop race by the looks of it. Okay, so strategy, it'll be fairly important, but it usually overcut comes much more into play when you have a two-stopper, although we did see a little bit of that last time out in Jeddah where there was just a one-stop. Anyway, they're just completing the formation lap now, looking forward to it. All right, so you see I kind of touched on the theme there of the Alpines, but I'll get into that in a second. So firstly, the first thing I wanted to mention was this Ferrari crash at the very beginning. Like, talk about a really bad start for Leclerc. Just not the start he will have wanted whatsoever. So that really damages his championship credentials. It damages Ferrari's credentials as well when you consider what happened with Sainz later on in the race as well. So once again, another very disappointing weekend for Ferrari, and I think the drivers can only blame themselves on this occasion. It wasn't engine, it wasn't car related, it was nothing to do with strategy. They just didn't have what it takes or took to stay on the track, unfortunately, without colliding with other drivers. Was Leclerc responsible? No, he probably wasn't responsible. It was a racing incident, but you know, every driver has a responsibility to try and keep their nose clean at the beginning of the race, as the saying goes. So that was the first thing that stood out for me. Another thing that I thought particularly curious was the strategy that Red Bull had employed for Sergio Perez. Now, Sergio Perez started the race on the hard tyres, one of the only cars to start on the hard tyres. But Red Bull, they surely knew that there was going to be a safety car in this race. They knew there was a very high possibility there would be a safety car at the start of the race. So if they had started Perez on a different tyre, he could have pitted once, put on the hard tyres, and that would be it. He'd be done to the end of the race. However, as it transpired, because he started on the hard tyre, he had to pit immediately following the safety car for, I'm not sure, I think it was a medium tyre they put on him, medium or soft, and then he had to pit again. So actually, he ended up doing 2 pit stops on that occasion. So yeah, really not great on the strategy side, but it did get me thinking about the strategy some of the other teams were employing. And then when we had the second safety car come out, Mercedes reacting immediately to put George Russell into the pits. Of course, he had the call because he was ahead of his teammate. But looking at the crash that occurred, it was the Albon crash actually that caused this. Looking at that crash, Albon caused a lot of damage. There was debris everywhere. There was gravel. Sure, I've never really seen a race stop before because of gravel, but there was a lot of gravel there. But the barriers were also damaged. So I felt the chances of a red flag were quite high actually on this occasion. So did Mercedes react too fast to that situation? Did they fail to think it through? If they didn't pit Russell, then maybe Hamilton would have pitted. So it could have been very, very different. I think at the end of the day, it more than likely just comes down to bad luck. Very bad luck for the Mercedes team. I was fascinated about the potential challenge that we were going to have because Hamilton was closing in on Russell and Russell was onto the team. He was saying, well, I can't save the tyres and defend against my teammate at the same time. You guys need to make a call here. We were robbed of that a little bit because that call didn't need to be made in the end. But it goes to show you that there are tensions there within the Mercedes team as well. And I'm a little bit disappointed that didn't come into play because I'm curious to see how Mercedes would have reacted to that. But they didn't. They didn't need to. And then sticking on the Mercedes topic, I feel like it's all Mercedes at this moment in time. Engine failure for Mercedes, that's a bit of a strange one. We don't see that very often from the Mercedes, and it was another devastating blow for George Russell, so he really didn't have a good day of it at all today. But yeah, he had that engine failure, and that was him out of the race. We did actually end up having a different top five for quite a while in that race, where there was a different team in each of the positions in the top five, which is something we haven't really seen in Formula One for quite a while, and that mixed things up. Of course, Max Verstappen got the move done on Lewis Hamilton, made it look really easy. The way he overtook Hamilton and gapped him by 2 seconds within the space of half a lap, absolutely insane. It's not like they were on different fuel loads or different tires. They were on very similar fuel loads and very similar tires. And it makes you worry about the rest of the season. Once again, I was kind of half joking yesterday where I was saying, oh, well, the championship could be wrapped up today. It kind of feels a little bit like that. Perez did get back into the points, but once again, Perez slicing his way through the field. He had a little bit of a setback actually after one of the restarts behind the red flag, or after the red flag, I should say. But it was quite easy for him to make his way through the field. He had the good downforce, he had excellent DRS, he had an excellent top speed as well. We saw some cars such as the McLarens really struggle for top speed, where clearly they were cornering better, but they couldn't get the move done under DRS conditions. So that was tricky for them. Anyway, it's ominous looking at that speed that the Red Bull has, and we can have a look at the championship standings as well in a second just to see how all of that is going. Anything else notable from the race? Well, yeah, there's certainly safety car number 3. Well, I suppose it resulted in red flag in the end, didn't it? Hamilton really wanted the race to end at that point in time. I think that was the one we had. There were about 4 laps left in the race. And, there's no surprise. Hamilton, of course, he was worried. He was worried that Alonso was going to be starting directly behind him. Alonso could be on fresh tyres. Just finish the race. We should see it out behind the safety car. And he came on the team radio. He was like, oh, yeah, we should take it really easy here. There's a lot of debris on the track. Or so, I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of that. But actually, that backfired a little bit because they brought out the red flag. Then, of course, he was hoping that the race would be finished. The race wasn't finished. They restarted. And my God, what chaos we had when they restarted that race. I'd love to say I've never seen anything like it. I have seen the likes of it before in Formula One. Very exciting, but absolutely insane. And it was Carlos Sainz, actually, the Ferrari man, that caused all the trouble. So he tagged Fernando Alonso. Unfortunately, I think it was into the second corner, third corner after the restart. It was a very lively restart where, Hamilton had a great restart. Verstappen had a good restart. And it was down to Alonso. I was pinning my hopes on Alonso to have a good battle with Hamilton there. But instead, he got embroiled in a tag with Carlos Sainz, and that caused a cascade all the way down through the field, where we had both of the Alpines crashing into each other. And I know Gasly was actually investigated for causing the crash, so he had to come back onto the track. He didn't have the speed he needed to have, and as a result, his teammate tried to go past him and he just slammed him into the wall. I actually don't think Gasly knew too much about it. He should have been probably more careful coming back onto the track, but the FIA have looked at it and have decided that no penalty is needed in this case. So I guess no blame has been apportioned as a result of that. Very unfortunate though, both the Alpines taking a massive crash, and then we saw a few crashes down the field as well. I know De Vries got involved in something. Trying to see who else. It was De Vries. But look at the order of the field when that red flag came out. And then we had the whole wait to see what's going to happen here. Are we going to have a finishing order like this? Are we going to go back a lap? In the end, I think they went for the boring option where they finished behind the safety car, went back one lap. It was very good news for Lance Stroll, very good news for Fernando Alonso, because both of those guys had been kind of wiped out in the whole melee that happened. Bad news then for the Alpines, because of course their cars were in bits and they couldn't restart behind the safety car, so they were out, even though if you go back a lap they were in, if you know what I mean. But that's not the way it works in reality, because if you don't have a car, you don't have a car. So they suffered really badly, and then Carlos Sainz got penalised in the very end, despite finishing, I think he finished in 4th or something like that. Yeah, it was 4th, wasn't it? It was 4th. But he got put back all the way to 12th place in the end when he was penalised. So no points whatsoever for Ferrari today. So the finishing order then was Yuki Tsunoda got 1 point in 10th place. 9th place was Zhou Guanyu. In 8th was Oscar Piastri, the homeboy. He was getting his first points in Formula 1 at his home Grand Prix. McLaren looked okay in the race today, I have to say. They had some good downforce, good speed in the cornering, not in the straight line, and that's where they really struggled. They were stuck for quite a long period behind certain cars, such as the Alpines, where they just couldn't get the move done. But good for them to get into the points. Nico Hülkenberg, an excellent result for him in 7th place as well. Of course, Haas did lodge an appeal after the race that we should have finished the race with the order after the crash for the final red flag, as opposed to going back one lap, because Hülkenberg would have finished in 4th if that was the case. They lost that appeal, unfortunately, or fortunately if you're a Fernando Alonso fan, but he does get 7th place, which is good points actually for the Haas team. Magnussen didn't finish the race. I don't believe he did finish the race. He was another DNF per my understanding. Actually, I'm just looking at the list now. I don't see him on there. Where was Magnussen? Yeah, DNF. Yeah, in 17th technically. Then we had Lando Norris finishing in 6th. Good result for him. Sergio Perez made his way back to claim 5th. Lance Stroll picks up 4th place. Of course, he shouldn't have been in 4th if Gasly had finished the race, but Gasly couldn't finish the race, but he benefited from all of that destruction in there. Fernando Alonso on the podium again. 3rd place again. I think that's his third place of the season out of 3 races. So, he's on a triplicate at the moment, doing really well. Lewis Hamilton, an amazing race from Lewis Hamilton, actually finished in 2nd. He seemed to have the measure of Fernando Alonso for the majority of the race as well. He was quite annoying coming on the radio complaining about everything, but at the end of the day, he has the skill and he's able to show it on the track, and he did a really good job. And in 1st place, it was Max Verstappen. Quite an easy race for Verstappen. I think he was more than likely getting a little bit nervous when you see all of this commotion going on around him, essentially. That's what I'm talking about. All the red flags and the restarts, he knew that he was always in danger that somebody would slip down the inside, like the start of the race perhaps, and take that position away from him. But it didn't happen, and he kept his nose clean, as I say, and he got through, and he won the race in the end. So that's 3 wins from 3 for the Red Bulls. 2 for Max Verstappen and 1 for Sergio Perez. I don't have the stats on the fastest lap. I think Perez may have taken the fastest lap for this race. Yeah, I think he got it. He got the fastest lap. So Verstappen probably won't be happy about that. So the driver standings, this is how it looks at the moment. So back in 10th place, Leclerc, crazy, with only 1 finish so far this season. In 9th place then, Nico Hülkenberg. 8th, we have Lando Norris. 7th, George Russell. 6th is Lance Stroll. 5th is Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari. 4th is Lewis Hamilton. In 3rd, then we have Fernando Alonso. 2nd is Sergio Perez. And in 1st place is Max Verstappen. 69 points for Verstappen, 54 for Perez, and 45 then for Alonso. So, it's turning into a little bit of a procession for the Red Bulls. And if we look at the team standings as well, we have 123 points on the top four. Red Bull, 65 points then to Aston Martin in 2nd place, and 56 points for Mercedes, who are in 3rd place. Ferrari are in 4th on a measly 26 points. So that puts them almost 100 points behind Red Bull already at this stage in the season. That is a shocker. Oh my goodness, Ferrari. Oh my goodness. What can I say? A long-suffering Ferrari fan. McLaren are in 5th. Alpine are in 6th. Haas are in 7th. Alfa Romeo in 8th. AlphaTauri in 9th. And Williams are in 10th. Somehow, Williams look pretty damn good. But they haven't been able to score the points, and that's the problem that they're having at the moment. They've looked very impressive this weekend. Alex Albon in particular, bad crash for him during the race, and really, they're paying the price for that. I think he was on for a strong points finish today, and somehow McLaren there in 5th place, managing to pull out 12 points today. So that's got them right back up the leaderboard. So as you can see, it's a very tight one with the teams towards the back of the field. Very, very tight indeed. Once you move past Ferrari in 4th place, it gets incredibly tight. 12 points, 8 points, 7, 6, 1 and 1. Very, very tight. AlphaTauri, very disappointing though, I will say. So that was it. Didn't do a watch along today. Couldn't get out of bed 6 a.m. in the morning. Just couldn't do it. It's the weekend. Got to relax. Very important. But a fantastic race. Really enjoyed it. What did you think of the race? What was the controversy for you? Lots of controversies, I think, more than likely. Tell me in the comments what you thought of it. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Really appreciate your support. So any interaction you can give this video will be fantastic. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will speak to you very, very soon.